so today I'm going to show you stem stitch. This is another great stitch that is a staple basic for embroidery. It's also, like all the other stitches, really simple and easy to get the hang of. It's great for doing stems on flowers. It's also a great stitch for doing lettering, and it's a really good stitch for getting nice neat curves on your lettering. I hope you're enjoying these tutorials. If you are, I'd really appreciate it if you can give a thumbs up and hit the like and subscribe. Okay, so to start, I have my cotton on my needle. Again, as before, we start from underneath the fabric, and basically you need to create a double length stitch. So if you was to say you wanted your stitch to be 1/2 centimetre, then you would do a centimetre stitch. You might find it easier to have a line or letter to follow drawn out on your canvas. That's up to you. So there's my first stitch. The second stitch comes up right beside the first stitch, but in the middle. And then you pull that up, and then you do your double stitch again. And you just sort of bring that over slightly so it's in line with this first stitch. And pull that gently. Then you bring your needle up. Now for your third stitch, you're going to use the top of your first stitch as your guide for where you want this to go. So then we just bring that up and then bring that along, and that is stem stitch. It's that simple. The main thing to remember with stem stitch is that if you're doing your half stitches at the top, you want to keep them all going the same way. You don't want some coming over this side, for example, and then coming up and going up there. So you might find it easier to, if you're doing a stem, for example, rather than doing it this way with your flower going up, you might find it easier to do it at the side. That'll be something you figure out as you go along. But that's it. It's really simple. So you just keep following that, using your previous stitch as a guide, and you just want to try and keep all your stitches about the same sort of length. So if you want some more practice on this, there's the link below to this pattern sheet that I've created, and this is this week's pattern. If you've been following along, we will have done French knots on week 1, lazy daisies week 2, satin stitch week 3, and this is week 4 for our stem stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my carbon paper and transfer this pattern onto my canvas on a hoop, and then we'll start our practice. If you're unsure on how to transfer the pattern with the carbon paper method, if you go back to week 2, lazy daisies, I briefly show you in there how I transfer my patterns using the carbon paper method. So now I've got my pattern all on my canvas and it's on my hoop. I've also got my needle threaded up with my green thread, and I'm going to start the stem stitch. So I'm starting from the bottom, and I'm going to do this main stem first. Come up, do a double length stitch, and then come back halfway. You just need to be careful that you don't go through your actual thread. Come back halfway, and then up and go half a stitch above your previous stitch. And then for your next one, you come back and start at the top of your first stitch, and then 1 stitch length above. Just remembering to keep your stitches all going in the same direction and don't change to bring your needle up, say this side and then across. If it's easier, remember you can turn your work on its side and work that way up the stem if you find that easier to follow your line. So now I'm just going to continue with my stem stitch, going up this stem and up the middle of either stem each side of this one. Now as we're right at the end of this stem, all I'm going to do is I'm going to come up beside my stem and I'm going to put in a half stitch on this one just to finish that off. And now I'm going to do exactly the same going up this stem and this one. So now I've done all my stems with stem stitch. I've got this pretty blue colour and I'm just going to do the branches off of my stems, and I'm going to use the stem stitch for these as well. And when I get to the end, I'm going to do what I did at the tops of the others. I'm just going to do a half stitch to finish that off, and then at the top I'm just going to bring up my needle and do a little French knot. Just to finish those off, and I'm going to do that on all of these branches either side of these stems. So now I've done the stem stitch on all of the side bits and popped a little French knot at the end of all of those, just to bring all of our stitches together, and two, I just feel like it adds a nice little bit of detail. Next up, I'm going to come up from the bottom of this middle stem and I'm going to put some lazy daisies in. What I'm going to try and do in this pattern is bring the last 4 weeks of stitches all together in one go. So I'm going to go back down through there, and then at the top of my lazy daisy just put in our little, loop it up and put in a little stitch, just pull in that where I want it to sit. Actually, even though we've only got one on the pattern, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a second one as well next to it. Just because actually the petals on the pattern are a bit bigger and these don't fully cover it. I've just done the second one slightly smaller, and then I'm going to come up here and do another one at the top. And then one next to it. So just overlapping those just gives a slightly fuller petal look, which I like. So I'm going to finish that off and then pop my yellow back on my needle. Now I've got my yellow, I'm just going to start off at the stem, and I'm actually just going to put in a couple of satin stitches. And then I'm just going to pop a little yellow French knot at the base here. And of course it wouldn't be complete without a nice little bow to finish off our little bouquet. So I'm going to go in this side, up the other side. Again, no knot in my cotton. Pull it through, even up my threads, knot those off and just tie a little bow and then trim up my threads. Last thing to do, I'm just going to grab my fabric marker and go over the stitch name. That's it, that's our stem stitch all finished and the little sampler for that. And also we've brought together all of the stitches that we've done from the last 4 weeks. So week 1 was our French knots, week 2 was our lazy daisies, week 3 was our satin stitch, week 4 was our stem stitch, but we brought in our French knots, lazy daisies and some satin stitches and brought it all together. Next week what I'll do is I will try and create a pattern so that we can do a bigger embroidery combining all of these stitches. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, I'd really appreciate it if you can give a thumbs up and a like and hit subscribe, and drop me a comment in the comments below, please. Let me know how you found this, if you've enjoyed it, what your favourite stitch was, and if there's any other stitches that you would like me to do a little video on. If you've missed any of the tutorials, the link to all the videos for these stitches and the playlist for them is in the description below. So make sure you go and check these out if you haven't already. Thank you.